Winterberg in Germany, round 4 of the FIBT Skeleton Men's World Cup. And on a foggy, misty January morning, drizzle falling over the ice track here in the Hochsauerland in Germany's Ruhr Valley. Well, welcome everybody to run 2, the second and deciding heat. I'm Martin Haven, sitting alongside me, Melissa Hollingsworth. And the highlights of the first heat, well, we have the Ducours brothers firing on all 12 cylinders.
Yes, Thomas, he is my dark horse pick for Sochi, and he's in fine form here in the Winterberg track. Smooth, sitting in 4th spot.
Well, Alexander Chechikov is our World Cup points leader. He set a stunning start record, but not in the top 3. Matt Antoine, a race winner already this season, lies in 2nd place after a solid run.
And he's coming off of that win from Lake Placid, just helping him with that motivation heading to Sochi.
Well, he won the season opener. After that, Martins Ducours has been just a little off the boil, but if he's building up to peak in February, he's going a good way about it. He leads here by 7/10 of a second at a track where hundredths is a more normal gap between the athletes. Look at the vault from 1st to 2nd, and then how close the podium spot battle is. 1/10 of a second carries you down to Tretyakov in 4th place. Could still finish on the podium here. He's not been lower than 2nd all year. John Daly from 12th start draw. Good run from him. And a good run too from Ben Sanford. Started 21st, the only man outside the top 20 to make it in. And Dave Grzesin, the World Cup rookie for Canada, in 19th place. Lucas Kummer hung on the bubble for the better part of 30 minutes. He will be in the top 20. 9 sliders who did Heat 1 will not get to go again. And your teammates getting a little bit of prep in for tomorrow. What about this Winterberg track then, Mel? Where are the keys for a skeleton slider?
Winterberg, we are always fighting the weather, the elements of the weather with the rain. And the groove plays such a huge part because it will pull you either to the left or the right as we go into this corner 0. The reason it's called corner 0 is because they changed the whole start with the start house a few years back. Corner 1, now you start to go uphill into corner 2. It's a relatively flat, slow track, so you don't want to be doing too much work down the track. Let the sled find its own way, do your steers in the optimal points. Corner 5, sometimes you come out of this corner and your sled skids off the end. It's critical to have a smooth entrance into Kreisel here. It's a 270-degree corner, and now the track will start to pick up some speed as we head into corner 9. There is the elusive corner 10 here where you start to shake a little bit into corner 11, picking up some top speed. We've had some hits coming out of corner 13 here, which changes the game as you're heading into the uphill section in this finish curve, corner 14 at about 123 kilometers an hour approximately for most of the field here.
Well, we will end next season here. Fortnight of World Cup racing, World Championships rather, 2015. First time since 1995 the Worlds have been in Winterberg in Hochsauerland in Germany. So we're looking forward to that, and a lot of development work going on with the track. So our 20 fastest sliders from the first heat now go in reverse order to build up to the climax of our race leader. Lucas Kummer, 20th after the first heat, 23-year-old from Switzerland. Let's see if he can fight his way up the order.
And he is a quick starter. Now just 400ths back from his first start time of 496, a 5 flat, but 4th rank in that first heat, and he'll be setting the pace for the rest of the field.
Well, one of the keys to this Winterberg track is a good start. Here you are actually coming uphill towards the camera and then back down from 4 towards corner 5. It's very flat until here, where you drop down about 3 stories and start to pick up speed.
You need to do minimal work. These blue lines in the Kreisel are target areas that you can see where your sled is going around that corner, where the pressures are. Naturally, you want to be feeling that as a slider, but sometimes there's those little cheater things that you can use visually to give you that confidence that you're on that right line.
Well, Lucas Kummer with a good start. And the speed at the bottom, 122.0, not great. We'll see 124s and maybe higher. Little delay to the start of the first heat. Track workers trying to keep this track in an icy condition in some pretty consistent drizzle. We've had one heavy downpour before the start this morning. We're hoping for no more because heavy rain will turn this into the world's iciest water slide, and that's not fun or equal.
That was a huge improvement for Lucas. He'll be excited to take advantage of having this cleaner, faster track being off the top. Corner 13, losing some pressure right there. You can see his leg up in the air.
Well, it may be that he is getting the best of the ice. Can he climb up the order? Next is Dave Grisheshin of Canada, World Cup rookie this season. 17 stone of him, by some margin, the heaviest man in the field.
All three of the Canadian men are sliding on sleds. You can see that big sticker. They're the ones that are building the sleds for the Canadian Development Program.
6'3", the grizzly bear on the helmet, and he flicks out of the groove, and he's in all sorts of trouble, 1-2.
Oh, and that is so devastating for Dave. The first run he came out and he hit on the right side, so he was prepared for how that groove was going to work, and now he had 2 hits before corner 0, a hit before 1, skidding.
Well, he's gone from 800s behind Lucas Kummer to 3800s behind. He'll have to pull out an unbelievable run to hold off the Swiss.
Dave is going to have to be very quiet and rely on his weight, because Winterberg, obviously, if you're heavier, it's going to help you down those flat sections of the track.
Well, 6th on home ice in his World Cup debut in Calgary. 20th and 26th his last 2 races. He won't drop out of the top 20 here, but he will drop down to 20th place with this run. So he's going to need somebody else to make mistakes to save him. That was a 59.29 run. That was 6/10 slower than his first heat.
And Dave is fighting for an Olympic spot right now. We will know our final Olympic team after the Eagles World Cup. We've got John Montgomery over in Whistler still racing, and of course we're racing against the rest of the nations to earn that spot in Sochi. Big hit there going on the left side, his legs spread, trying to control it. Look at all the water on the track. There's just no grip for him. That big angle, big hit, just continues to hit and keep on that wall. And you can see he is extremely disappointed.
Ben Sanford of New Zealand is our 3rd of 20 sliders in the second heat, lying 18th after heat 1. 6'6" plus of Kiwi. And Ben Sanford, not a fast starter, needs lots of ice and lots of corners. He's looking forward to the double skeleton race weekend in St. Moritz, Switzerland. 1.5 miles of ice in front of him. He will appreciate more than this just under 1,300 meter track here. Nevertheless, the Kiwi is a long aerodynamic shape. Let's see what he's got. 5:23, one of the slowest starts in the first heat, 5:24 in the second.
But he handles corner 0 smoothly, so that should help him when he gets down to the bottom portion of the track, not bleeding that speed at the top.
He's one of our most experienced athletes now. He's been sliding the World Cup Tour for so long, and that's the sort of experience that helps you deal with problems.
But little mistakes like that last corner, he went too early. You could see a bit of the ice fall off as he just touched the wall.
He was 2,800s in front of Lucas Kummer from the first heat. He's 800s up at the moment. Now his weight and his momentum start to work for him, and a clean exit there keeps the speed alive.
This is where the track really starts to pick up its speed heading into the finish corner. 125 kilometers an hour. That's very fast.
Very fast indeed. He goes into the lead by 0.6 of a second. So Ben Sanford with a really strong second run, 58.6. That's half a second quicker than his previous run. 17 sleds still to come.
Bumps the wall. You can see some ice falling off the wall there, but his weight and his aerodynamic form helped him create that speed on this flat Winterberg track.
Top of the track is Dr. Ice. Kristen Bromley lying in 17th place. Partner Shelley Rudman, the reigning world champion, holds the sled for him in his 18th, unbelievable, 18th season as a World Cup competitor, and what we believe will be his last. And trying to find the pace to get himself into Olympic shape.
Kristen has so much experience all over the world, many Olympic Games. 5:13, smooth through corner 0.
Quicker than his first start, and he avoids dramas, and that's so important here. These first 4 corners can just ruin your run.
And calm on his sled. I like seeing Kristen in this type of form.
Camera mics are showing the wind is picking up. 2008 world champion, won the World Championship, European Championship, and the World Cup. Just blew everybody away in that perfect storm of a season. This is a much better second run from Kristen Bromley. 4/10 up now.
That's great.
Well, with that track hold for extra prep, are they getting the best of the conditions now? And we're starting to see what they should have been doing. 124, again, good speed. And a 58.34 slide, he came down 59.02. That's 7/10 quicker than his previous run.
Oh, that's great for Kristen. That could give him the opportunity to move up in the rankings here. And he looks so comfortable on his sled, not crazy legs moving all over the place. And without brakes on a skeleton sled, he shoots straight up the outrun. A little bit of pressure there, but he handles it well. His shoulders stay down on the sled, stays relaxed. Here's corner 13, where we have that surprise hit sometimes. He stays clear of that wall.
In the background, Sanders Prusis, the Latvian bobsled coach, just watching the lines. Kristen Bromley, our race leader, with 16 sleds still to come. One of those days, it certainly is. Hardy spectators out here. Friday lunchtime in Germany. And next up is Christopher Groothair, former junior world champion. 21 years old, 2012 junior world champion from Oberhof, Germany's 4th track, and one that we don't go to with the FIBT because it's not big enough for a 4-man bobsled.
Christopher had a strong start on his first heat. Last year he won a bronze medal here, so we are surprised to see him so far back in the field.
Well, lots of mothers, Mel, worry when their kids transfer from whatever sport they started in into something stupid like skeleton. He started as a ski jumper when he was 6. His mother must have breathed a sigh of relief. Oh, only skeleton. Oh, that's much better. And 5:07, he's a quick start as well. That's not bad for him.
He is, and this is his World Cup debut this season. Maybe he needed to get those jitters out and see if he can have a consistent second run, hold his spot.
Didn't start skeleton sliding till he was 16. Went to sports high school, so he's been an athlete all his life, but the time is ebbing away.
We're seeing mistakes that we should not be seeing from a German on his home track, bumps here and there. Watch his head as he gets into this faster portion of the track. Listen to that. That is his face dragging on the ice.
Still decent speed, 124.3, 77.3 kilometers an hour. Christopher Groothair is not going to get a medal this year like he did last year. Well, one of the things you notice compared to a couple of the athletes, Ben Sanford, Kristen Bromley, we've just seen, he's bouncing so much on the sled, and that's, the setup is not working for the track today.
No, I would say not. Here's this angle. He hits before corner 9, pushes him away. That friction on the wall, it's going to be slowing you down.
Diving to the finish line, you can see the line is just on the corner as they start to get thrown off. We've seen bobsled races won with sleds crashing off the final corner, but for Christopher Groothair, no chance of even being in the same postal code as the medals. Next up, Austria's Matthias Guggenberger. In the Christmas New Year break, a lot of nations had their national championships. Matti won the Austrian title. Made his World Cup debut the 2006-07 season after the Torino Games, having started sliding the previous year, aged 21, almost old by that stage.
And the groove isn't pulling the athletes as much to one direction or the other, it seems like, but now they're getting up onto that corner 0, and they're having problems exiting the corner.
I imagine that the track workers have done a little bit to sort out the problems with the groove spitting you out. as a result, the athletes are now finding themselves travelling longer and straighter up to corner zero. So it's always about adapting to the track as you find it, not how you left it.
Exactly. You have a plan to get down the track, but it really is about your reaction time with these high speeds and the G-force, doing the optimal, the minimal work.
Dropping away, 92.9 kilometers an hour. We'll see 94s maybe from the fast athletes. Quarter of a second back, he's in second place ahead of Christopher Groothaer. And drops to third place with only a fourth quickest run. Kristen Bromley is our race leader still. Martin Rettel says goodbye from the leader's box for the moment as Matthias Guggenberger drops into third equal with Ben Sanford of New Zealand. Still raining here in Winterberg.
See those blue lines? It's higher than those ones at the exit. Little bit of pressure drops out. You can see his legs swinging behind him, so he was not tracking into corner 8.
Kristen Bromley, our race leader, from Christopher Groothaer, and a tie for third, Matthias Guggenberger and Ben Sanford. Top of the track is Eric Nielsen of Canada, tied for 14th spot after the first of our 2 heats here in Winterberg, Germany. Round 4 of the FIBT Skeleton Men's World Cup. And the Canadian looking to try and recapture some of his mercurial form now. 32 years old, birthday on January 20th. And by that stage, we may be a lot closer to knowing how many Canadians and which names will fill the Olympic spots.
A little tap there, but much better than what his first run was. He had interesting split times on his first run where he was losing speed and then gaining speed because he is a big guy. He has a lot of mass. He can use that to propel himself down this flat Winterberg track.
Here the fans getting into the action. Track announcer keeping them up to speed. Down to 100th of a second the lead. Was 900s at the top, 90.2. Now, if he's into the 123s at the bottom, he's got a chance still. He's 1400s back. 93 is not bad momentum, but he's working hard.
Oh, and he had that hit going into corner 11.
2200s back, not 125s, it's not enough. He will drop back and into third place ahead of Ben Sanford and Matthias Guggenberger. Kristen Bromley still leads. Is he getting the best of the weather? This is kind of going back to the early part of this century where Bromley often had a disappointing first run and he seemed to be perennially in the leader's box as the weather deteriorated. 509. Looks like the track is not getting any quicker.
No, but Eric's form on his sled, it doesn't look the same to me. His body is bananaing with the actual pressure. That could mean he's putting pressure into the sled when it is not necessary.
In the winner's box. No, I'm not even close.
So Viessmann will have to try again next week as we go to St. Moritz. Raphael Meyer of Austria then. Father and brother both bobsledders. Started sliding ice aged 10. Kristen Bromley at that stage was already 8 years into his career, I think. Now let's see what the 21-year-old Austrian can produce. 4th in the Junior Worlds 2012.
5:16, that's a little faster than his first start. He'll be happy with that because he's been having some disc problems in his back, which has inhibited his summer training, the dryland training. Train very similar to track and field athletes so that you can be fast and strong and powerful to push that sled.
They only spend 10 or 12 weekends a year racing on ice. The rest of the time, it's all about preparation, just like any other athlete. All he needs constant work, and Meyer now drops behind, so it seems that the speed can be there to the Kreisel, but he was giving away speed to Bromley below. Now those high corners in the Kreisel are going to be sheltered from the rain, but are they starting to get frosty and sticky? Drops 2100s back, 58.62 slide for him. His first was a 58.9, so he's 3/10 quicker. But Kristen Bromley was 7/10 quicker than his first slide.
And that might have been the optimal time for that spritz. When Kristen went down, that was the perfect track. We'll see as more sliders come.
Well, Rafael Meyer, brother Benny will slide later today in a two-man race. But not holding his line too well in the Kreisel.
Great aerodynamic form, always looks relaxed on his sled, even when he gets a little bit of height, like he did on the exit of 13 and picked up too early in 14.
Well, the 9th of our athletes in this second heat in Winterberg, Germany, Kyle Tress of the USA. Kyle lying in 12th position. Let's see if he can put himself into a top 10 finish. Best results so far this season, 7th place last race before Christmas in Lake Placid.
You have the option of using either the right or the left groove, and Kyle is using the left, and it pulls him over, and he bumps the wall on the entrance of 0.
Using a Willi Schneider German-built sled, most of his teammates using the US Protostar. 2300s ahead of Kristen Bromley at the start, 1700s back out of corner 3, ahead rather out of corner 3, so he's lost some of that momentum. Down to a 10th in front.
We talked so much about corner 0 because it was a late addition to the track just a few years ago, and usually we have problem corners with more of the high speeds, lower down on the tracks, but this Winterberg track makes it very difficult for most of the athletes in bobsleigh and skeleton trying to get through the very first corner of the track. It can make or break your race.
Still in front, he dropped to 600s, now he's 900s up, he's got the speed to take the lead, and he does, 1400s, he found speed at the bottom, so the track is still capable of giving you some time. That run was 900 slower than Kristen Bromley, but Kyle Tress produced the goods and got himself into the race lead, so at least he will hold his spot.
Look at the water rushing down the track.
Well, it is turning into a log slide, isn't it?
Comes out of corner 13, quite a bit of height, pushes him over into 14, a bit of a skid. You can see the ice coming up from under his runners.
Kristen Bromley looked pretty happy to have moved up the order. He still lies second behind. 32-year-old Kyle Tress of the USA, our race leader. And next up is our 10th athlete on the ice, 11th after the first heat, Hiro Takahashi of Japan. Well, Hiro, now 29 years old, both Japanese athletes, the same age. Born within 3 months, in fact, within 2 days of each other, I beg your pardon. Kyle Tress in the drizzle now, looking a lot happier than he was perhaps before the start. And Kristen Bromley edging ever closer to his qualification standard.
So many different starting styles for all of these athletes of how they make that choice of what groove to use. A 504, that's a strong start.
Yes, it is. Lucas Kummer's 5.0 is the fastest we've had in this heat, but a new record was set in heat 1, 4.77. Be interesting to see if that goes again. 4,200s up. This is a good start from Takahashi. He doesn't look like he's got great leg speed, but he gets some momentum onto that sled.
It's about being efficient. When you're pushing an object on ice, you have to maintain the actual contact with the ground.
He's gone from a quarter second ahead at the start to half a second up and builds on that. 94.0, best speed we've seen so far, 58.5 miles an hour. Should be in the 125s at the bottom, still half a second up. 124.0, that'll do. He'll take a comfortable lead, and Coach Katsuhiro Koshi will react accordingly. He'll be happy. Kyle Tress will stay in second place as Hiro Takahashi takes the lead for Japan.
That was impressive, and look at him cheering. He's so excited.
Well, Hiro, that's really good work from him. 10th in Calgary, 9th in Salt Lake, 13th in Placid.
Loads on the sled. You want to have all of your energy going forward, not to the side, because then you can pop out of that groove. You can see how shallow it is. Now he's attacking corner 0.
Hands tucked in under the hips. Koshi-san loving that.
I'd be so proud.
Race leader Katsuhiro Koshi in Winterberg, 10 still to come.
Der nächste Starter kommt aus Deutschland. Liebe Zuschauer, feuern Sie an unseren 11., die Nummer 11, Alexander Kröckel, Deutschland.
Welcome back to Winterberg, Germany. Fans sheltering from the cold, the drizzle. It's a miserly day here. My name's Martin Haven, alongside me, Winter Olympic athlete from Canada, Melissa Hollingsworth. She'll be racing in tomorrow's women's skeleton race. We're in the second and deciding heat of our men's skeleton encounter. Fastest 10 from the first heat to go. Germany's Alex Kröckel, the 2011 Junior World Champion, now 23 years old, still a junior. Let's see if he can move up the top 10.
Ooh, he gets up on corner 0, it pushes him over, but he stays off of the wall. That will help him.
Kröckel's second best of the German sliders after the first heat. Still have the daddy of them all, Frank Rommel, 29-year-old, still to come.
But we are seeing Alexander just move his head back and forth quite a bit. So the influence that he might be having on the sled, maybe taking away from some of the speed he could be building down this flat Winterberg track.
Well, Kröckel had a top 6 finish here on this ice last year. Teammate Alexander Christopher Grother rather, got a bronze medal, but didn't make much of an impression here. Kröckel 4/10 back. That still leaves him in second place, a fraction ahead of Kyle Tress. And he just hangs on. 58.47, that's a 10th of a second better than his first heat. But Melissa, we saw some of the guys at the bottom of the top 20 improving, not by a 10th, but by half a second and change.
And this is surprising. A home track. We thought we'd see the Germans have some stronger results. We still have Frank Rommel to come, but Alexander did have great speed at the bottom. Just some little mistakes there at the top. Look at him working. Gonna cross that finish line on one runner.
Drove it off too early and had to really haul the sled around to avoid slamming into the finish wall at 125 kilometers an hour. Hiro Takahashi of Japan leads with 9 to go, and Dom Parsons of Great Britain struggling a little bit with a flu at the moment, but after a bronze medal to start the season, feeling that his form is strong on this Blackrock sled. 4.94 getaway, that's a good quick start from him as well.
We'll have to see if his velocity will help him get through that mistake coming out of corner 0, a bit of a skid hit into the wall.
From 1500s up to 1400s ahead of Hiro Takahashi. This to hold on to his place in 9th spot.
Dom started the season with a bronze medal performance in Calgary, so impressive. Extremely talented sprinter. He pushed that sled so fast. That's his strong asset in the sport.
And he has drifted away. 93 kilometers we saw from Takahashi. 92.2 from Dom Parsons. And the gap widens, yawning gap. Hiro was 125, Dom 122, and he drops to 3rd spot. Hiro Takahashi climbing the order. Takahashi, best season result this year, 9th place. He now could be no worse than 8th position, as we have, 9th place, as we have 8 still to come here, and Dom Parsons is going to have to go and huddle up under the duvet, get some warmth back into his body.
Comes into the Kreisel turn. You can see his head just bobbing a little bit. That ice must be pretty rough. He didn't have the speed. He was 11th with his speed coming into the Kreisel. All that speed that he had at the top with that fast start was lost before corner 7.
Hiro Takahashi, 9th place at the moment. That is a career best result for him so far. Frank Rommel of Germany, if he stumbles, Hiro will stay in the leader's box. And there is pressure now on these front runners. The Germans not all convinced about the FES sled, which is the state-owned group that builds bob and skeleton sleds for them. Doesn't seem to be working for them in skeleton terms. Frank Rommel, 5:14. His experience has got to pay Melissa Hollingsworth. He's got to find something.
Frank isn't the best starter in the world, but he is one of the best drivers and has one of the most experienced careers, very successful career. Home track of Winterberg, he should be able to find some speed here somewhere.
Well, he's gone from 4 to 800s back, and like his teammates, based at the Oberhof track. So all these tracks, of course, they've known well since they started sliding, but he's drifting away again, 1200s back. 93.8 is good speed, could get close again. 800s, 125.3, quicker than Takahashi. Is there enough ice out of the finish corner to take the lead? There is, just by a whisker. Hiro Takahashi still gets his career best result. He's going to be no worse than 9th place. And Frank Rommel holds on by 200s.
Now, it's great that Rommel held his spot, but, you know, he was probably looking to gain some ground like Kristen did, like the Japanese slider did, try and move up in the ranks, and now he'll be fortunate if he can move up a spot.
At the moment, he's the best ranked of the Germans. They're likely to have 2 athletes going to Sochi for men's skeleton, and at the moment, that would be Frank Rommel and Alexander Krökel, possibly. See some of the Russians who'll be sliding later and tomorrow alongside the track. And there's Canadian athletes as well, watching Johnny Fairbairn of Canada, 7th place after the first heat. And he's not been outside the top 10 all year. This would not be the place, Melissa Hollingsworth, that your teammate would want to start any of that happening.
John Fairbairn has a fancy painted helmet with the brain on it because everyone pronounces his last name wrong. Everyone calls him Fairbrain. 5:04, huge improvement for Johnny on that start. That's great. He's been working with his coach, Kim Cousins, having personal bests on every track he's been going to at this start, leading this Canadian team into Sochi.
He is the best ranked of the Canadian sliders in World Cup tours. 6 spots so far, 9th, 8th and 6th, his 3 race results. Can he go better? 300s in the lead. Holding a whisker over Frank Rommel. There was only 200s between them from the first heat. And now that tiny advantage has been overturned. Rommel in the 93s at that stage.
Johnny's having a very smooth run, but to try and keep up to Rommel on a home track.
And the gaps are so tight. He was down to 4th, he's up to 3rd place now. But he's going to drop behind Rommel and Takahashi too, yes. 3rd place for Johnny Fairbairn. Frank Rommel leads. Hiro Takahashi will now be no worse than 8th place. His career best run continues. Johnny Fairbairn slips a couple of spots.
Has a little bit of a dip. Comes out of corner 9 into that little 10. Fairly smooth. Stays off the wood.
Melissa Hollingsworth, the sliders from 10 to 20 have struggled, but the quick guys are still fast. Frank Rommel is our race leader from Hiro Takahashi.
You can see that rain blowing in sideways.
Top of the track, lots of noise here in Winterberg for the first of our Russian athletes, Sergei Chudinov. Only 2 Russians in this field that started as 29 and is now 20 going in reverse order in the second heat. Coach Willi Schneider sets the sled on the ice. All the Russians sliding on Schneider equipment. The girls will be sliding tomorrow, banging on the hoardings to cheer on their teammate. Chudinov having his best World Cup season start so far.
It looked like his sled was almost going sideways into corner 0, trying to miss that corner. We'll have to see if he can hang on to that velocity that he created at the top.
Really powerful athlete, Tschudi, 29 years old, 6'1" and 80 kilos, 176 pounds. Very quick start, 4.95. He's 0.3 of a second, and the lead is growing. 93.2, good speed exiting the Kreisel. The gap's dropped down below 0.3 to 2700s. He can't give all that away, or can he? 124, Rommel was 125 and bits. It's going to be close at the line, but he stays in front. He could almost throw it away. 58.37. Like Frank Rommel, slower than his first heat, so the track's not holding the speed anymore. Could see this get tighter.
It could. I don't think anyone's going to challenge Martins, but see, look at his sled. He's trying to miss the corner, and all of a sudden it starts to move sideways, and you can see the water spray out from behind him.
Well,
that
now,
is such a severe angle to come into the corner.
That is aquaplaning. He skidded on that rivulet of water that's running down this icy track.
And he got away with it, obviously, because of the equipment he chose to slide on today.
Well, we saw Alexander Tretyakhov's sled sideways more than once in his run as well, so maybe they've both gone for a really aggressive setup. Frank Rommel breathed a sigh of relief as he holds the lead by 200s. John Daly of the USA, 5th after heat 1 of 2 here. And Daly, the 28-year-old, born in Long Island, lives Smithtown, New York. Let's see what he's got as the start. First heat 5:01, 4.98. That's more on the money.
It's a great start. He handled corner 0 well. Oh, and a bit of a skid and an interesting angle going into corner 2.
Just when you think you've seen it all, somebody will come up with a different mistake. 600s up on Rommel.
We know his dad is watching back home.
90.7, not enough to really hold that margin. It's out to 900s. Oh, 1600s. Now the speed is coming. Whoa! Big skid.
I hope his runners didn't hit the wood on the exit of 9 there.
Again, aggressive setup. It seems to be working. 123.8, not big. The lead over Chudinov down to hundreds. No, he holds it. 58.27. A 10th of a second quicker than Tschudi on that run. 400s quicker on the previous. See the scuff on his helmet. It's not just the sled that takes the biffs. Wild ride.
Have a look at 9. Pressure. Oh, man. He is airborne there. Stays as relaxed as possible. Handles 13-14 fairly well. Has that slight bump. He's going to be happy with that.
John Daly moves into the leader's box for the USA with 4 to come. As Sergei Chudinov moves out, his teammate, who set another new start record, the World Cup leader, Alexander Tretyakov, gets ready maybe to break that start record. 4.77 in the first heat. An epic getaway.
You can see that's a great shot of the rock, the bow in the runner that the athletes can change and manipulate so that you have less runner contacting the ice, less control, but could turn into speed.
So let's see, 4.77 is the mark. He beats it again, 4.75. He is insanely quick, this man. Can he hold it together? Melissa, when you see such a bow, it means there's only a tiny contact patch with the ice. We saw his sled really skittish in the first heat. That means fast, but hard to handle.
Exactly, and it's just trying to get into that rhythm and learn that setup and the minimal amount of work that you have to do, because if you do a panic steer, it's going to have a huge influence on the sled and you'll go sideways like Tretyakov did through corner 0.
Is he working on what they think will be the perfect setup for Sochi and just learning to ride this? He's gone from 57 to 1700s up, 900s of a second. He needs 125s. He hasn't got it. He's going to go back, and John Daly is going to end up in 4th. Oh, where did he find that in that final corner? John Daly in 2nd. Alexander Tretyakov leads with 3 to go. I thought that was a goner, but he found speed on the final corner, and maybe that's part of where the aggressive setup is paying off.
And you know, it's not necessarily about Winterberg, it is about Sochi. And this ice could be like the Sochi ice, so they are trying everything, testing things.
Well,
look at that,
Sochi,
efficient on the sled, quickly.
and that's how you carry that sprinter speed down the track, by getting it onto the sled efficiently. Oh, goodness me. Nervy times now for our remaining athletes. Tretyakov has shattered the track record again. 3 to go, 2 brothers. Not for the first time and probably not for the last. Thomas Ducour's ready to go. 3rd after the first heat, and he lies just 800ths of a second out of the silver medal position. Alexander Tretyakov is our race leader, and Ducour's was only 400ths quicker than him in the first heat. This could be overturned.
Thomas has been battling a meniscus tear in his knee, so his start times haven't been as competitive. What we're normally seeing, a 4:96. He should be faster than that. Still competitive, but we just know that he's so much better.
He was 4th in the Vancouver Winter Games. His brother Martins was 2nd. They both won medals when they go to Sochi.
He's definitely my pick to be in Sochi, that dark horse that will be performing over 4 heats. You have to be consistent.
Oh my word, he went from 1400s at the start to 2100s behind, comes to the Kreisel just 300s adrift, he's in the lead. 1900ths of a second in front of the Russian rocket, Alex Tretyakov. Tretyakov dug speed out of the final corner somewhere, but you've got to think that Ducour's will have the speed before he gets there. He does, and he is surely going to take the lead. 3/10 up and more. 58.09, quicker than his first heat. It is still possible there.
So exciting for Thomas.
And the travelling Latvian Barmy Army are here in numbers as well. That maroon and white flag is not the colours of Queensland, Australia. That is the Latvian flag.
Look at his form. He's on that corner early, above those blue lines. He's relaxed.
You want to show a slide of what you should look like on a sled? That's what you should look like on a sled. The secret is looking good and producing the speed. So Thomas Ducour's our race leader from Alex Tretyakov and John Daly. 2 to come in Winterberg. Well, Matthew Antoine from Prairie du Chien, Wisconsin, in his official biography, lists his occupation as being awesome. Well, he certainly lived up to that billing last time out in Lake Placid, didn't he? Claimed his first ever World Cup gold medal. Victory last time out on home ice in the USA. He lies 2nd now, but the yawning margin to the leader, well, if he vaults that, then he really will be awesome with an extra plus on it somewhere. Out of the shelter and into the water slide he comes. Got to keep it nice and straight. 5:05, quicker than his first start by 300ths. Well, Melissa Hollingsworth, Martins Ducour's 7/10 in front of the rest of the field, but the gap from 2nd down to 4th was measured in hundreds. He's gone from 300ths back to 1500ths adrift. The gap is opening wide. He's already down to 3rd place and out of the medals potentially.
We'll have to see if he can pick up the pace here once the track gets a little bit quicker heading into quarter 9.
3300ths adrift, Matt Antoine. Thomas Ducour's is going to lead with 1 to go.
Just don't think there's enough track for Matt.
He doesn't have the speed into the finish corner either. He's going to drift away, remains 3rd. Such was the gap back to John Daly. 500s in front of Daly, but Thomas Ducour's leads. So USA 3rd and 4th with Antoine and Daly. Bartres tied for 10th with Great Britain's Don Parsons. But that's a disappointment for Matt Antoine. Maybe the track has changed too much and gone away from his runner setup.
That tough corner zero, he sort of falls off the corner. Look at his tracks that he's making. There's just so much friction and water spraying everywhere.
There's a lot of him. 180 pounds, 82 kilos. He's a 6'2" athlete.
A little bit too early into Kreisel. You can see that uptake and how it pushes him down.
Well, he was steering with his legs, swinging out left to try and negotiate that. Now then, our first heat race leader, Martin Stukurz. His winning streak came to an end in the World Championships last year. He won again the start of this year in Calgary, second Salt Lake, 8th in Lake Placid. Surely we can't have another one of those. Starts 4:86, another great start from the Latvian.
I love how Martin's sled is just a part of him. He's not sliding on a sled like that. That is a body part of his, of how comfortable he looks.
You know, Ironman suits, well, that's what it's like for Martin Stukurz as well. It's tailored to his every whim. He started 7100ths ahead of second place. He's now 9800ths ahead of brother Thomas. He could win by over a second here. The gap is getting back to the Martin Stukurz margins of old, 1.1 seconds ahead. Speed will be 125 plus. 1.2 seconds up. He's going to win by 1.3. No, he doesn't. 1.19 seconds. A 57.67. That was 4 slower than his previous run, but enough to take a convincing win. Well, that was quick enough to have come from behind on the last run, Melissa Hollingsworth, not from starting with a 10-meter head start in a 100-meter sprint.
Yeah, so impressive. It's great to see the brothers go 1-2, and Tretyakov snuck up there into that bronze medal just by 400ths over top of Anton. What a great race here in Winterberg.
Well, Alex Tretyakov yet to finish out of the podium this season. And Martin Stukurz spoke to him this morning and said, "You're going to get a win in today?" He said, yeah, maybe. We'll see what happens. It's always hard to read in training what he's really got. He doesn't show his hand.
The ice chunks bust away on that groove.
I tell you what, he'd be a hell of a poker player. You never know what he's got, and then when he lays the cards down, oh boy, that's a winning hand. Wins by 1.19 seconds. Brother Thomas in second. Alex Tretyakov lies third in the bronze medal position ahead of Mat-Antoine John Daly and Sergei Chudanov. So 2 Latvians, 2 Americans, 2 Russians in our top half dozen. There is the finishing order, round 4 of the FIBT Men's Skeleton World Cup in Winterberg. Frank Rommel, the best of the Germans, in 7th, ahead of Hiro Takahashi's career best 8th spot. Don Parsons and Carl Tress tied 11th, ahead of Kristen Bromley. A couple of off-form sliders. Dave Grzechin of Canada makes it a top 20 finish. Well, Melissa, fortunately no major rain showers, because that really is going to just alter the track a lot. It's partly covered, but not after wind and rain get to it. But Martin Stukurz produces the goods once more. He really just drove away from everybody in a style that we've got so used to seeing.
He did, and yeah, the ice conditions were very dependent on the weather for sure, because we saw some of those top speeds out of the exit of Kreisel after the 3rd and 4th sliders down the track, and those maintained throughout the rest of the race. So it was, you know, the sooner you were off, the better you had it.
Yeah, we saw some of the guys who were low down in the starting order picking up a lot of places. Kristen Bromley picked up half a dozen spots, and 5 spots, and that really worked well for him. But for those coming later, their first heat advantage, some of them built on it, some of them couldn't build on it. So definitely the track was changing, and I think we're going to see a lot more of that this weekend. We got 6 races here, because the 4-man sleds will get 2 races in this weekend. That's really where you want some very much colder conditions than this, with 650 plus kilos of 4-man sled going down 2 days in a row. It's going to be a lot of ice damage for the track workers to deal with. So tomorrow's women's skeleton race. Tomorrow we're also going to see the first of the 4-man races. This afternoon we got the 2-man bobsleigh race. coming up 3 o'clock Central European. That's 2 Greenwich Mean Time. And then on Sunday, women's bobsleigh and 4-man bob, their 4th race, or their 5th race rather. They're going to get their make-up race here to make up for the fact that it takes a week of racing to get the sleds across the Atlantic. Winterberg, Germany, 4th men's skeleton World Cup race of the season. Alexander Tretyakov remains our World Cup points leader. Bronze medal here ahead of winner Martin Stukors, who closes to 25 points behind Matt Antoine. Remains in 3rd place for the USA. Thomas Dukors, though, closing on him as well. The Latvian brothers, 2nd and 4th, are coming up the order. And Kristen Bromley also moving a little bit up the order. 16th place, started the weekend in 18th. Well, down in the finish area is John Morgan. Let's see what we've got.
And as we do in Winterberg, we always award the flowers with the beautiful Velton's beer. Here's our 3 flower ceremony award winners, guys. Okay, now the interviews. Mr. The Russian Rocket.
Well, Martin Stukors didn't beat Alexander Tretyakov, who set 2 new start records here before he got onto the sled. But something between him and his skeleton just eclipsed everybody else's efforts here. A shattering victory, less than 40 days from the games. Let's hear from our top 3.
Okay, now the Russian Rocket, 2 start records.
Да, сегодня удалось хорошо пробежаться, очень рад. Спасибо тренерам за помощь, медицинским работникам, всему персоналу. Всех с наступившим Новым годом. Спасибо.
Yeah, he knows he can do better, but 2 start records is impressive. Bronze medal. Now one of the 2 Dukars brothers. Thomas, you were good in training all week, weren't you?
Yeah, thanks to my coaches, which helped me to find faster lines, and yeah, I put together 2 good runs, so here I am.
Great way to start 2014, and Mr. Superman, in training, you were not very good start times, not very good down times. Were you sleeping?
Not really sleeping, but trying to find the best lines compared to equipment, and finally I found it in last day, and that's big teamwork, and also really big thanks for supporters, and great race for me.
Great way to start 2014.
Can I drink now?
Oh yeah, you can drink it now. Next weekend, not so. They'll have 2 races in St. Moritz, but Martins and Thomas Dukors taking medals for Latvia ahead of Alexander Tretyakov. That's 2 of our top 3 in the World Cup standings. So my thanks to John Morgan, to Melissa Hollingsworth, the rest of the FIBT TV crew here in Winterberg. Good to see that we can still put on one heck of a boat race here. And there'll be a chance to see more of it as well. 3 o'clock this afternoon, men's 2-man bobsleigh.